All right, so normally I like to read a book before I start putting it on recording. However, I've just read the letter from the author and I've already decided, you know what? I'm putting this on recording, rough draft, and I'll reread it because I normally read them more than once anyway. And so this is Killing Kennedy, and it's by the authors that wrote Killing Jesus, which I'm currently putting on demo. But the authors are Bill O'Reilly and Martin Dugard, and I'm just going to dig right on in. Let's go. And this book is dedicated to my ancestors, the Kennedys of Yonkers, New York. Hardworking, generous, and honest folks. A note to readers, November 22nd, 1963, Mineola, New York, approximately 2 p.m. The students in Brother Carmine Diodati's freshman religion class were startled. Over the loudspeaker, a radio report crackled into the Chaminade High School classroom. President John F. Kennedy had been shot in Dallas, Texas, and taken to the hospital. A short time later, we would all learn he was dead. No one knew what to say. Most Americans born before 1953 remember exactly where they were when they heard the news that JFK had been assassinated. The days following that terrible Friday were filled with sadness and confusion. Why did it happen? Who really killed the president? What kind of country did we live in anyway? The assassination of JFK was somewhat personal for me. My maternal grandmother was born Winifred Kennedy, and my Irish Catholic family had deep emotional ties to the young president and his family. It felt as if someone in my own home had died violently. Like most kids on Long Island, I didn't care much about national politics. But I vividly remember pictures of JFK displayed in the homes of my relatives. To them, he was a saint. To me, he was a distant figure who died in a terrible way. His brains splattered all over the trunk of a car. The vision of his wife Jacqueline crawling onto the back of the limo in order to retrieve the president's shattered skull has stayed with me always. Martin Dugard and I were well pleased that millions of people read and enjoyed Killing Kennedy. We want to make history accessible to everyone. We want to tell readers exactly what happened and why, using a style that is entertaining as well as informative. After chronicling the last days of Abraham Lincoln, the progression to John Kennedy was a natural. It has been widely pointed out that the two men had much in common. In fact, the parallels are amazing. Lincoln was first elected in 1860, Kennedy in 1960. Both were assassinated on a Friday in the presence of their wives. Their successors were both Southerners named Johnson, who had served in the Senate. Andrew Johnson was born in 1808, Lyndon Johnson in 1908. Lincoln was elected to Congress in 1846, while Kennedy was elected to the House in 1946. Both men suffered the death of children while in office. The assassin Booth shot inside a theater and fled into a storage facility, while the assassin Oswald shot from a storage facility and fled into a theater. Back in 1963, few Americans understood how profoundly the assassination of JFK would change the country. These days, history is a difficult thing to impart, especially because of political agendas. In this book, we will try to cut through the fog and bring you the facts. Unfortunately, some of the facts are still not known. In our narrative, Martin Dugard and I go only as far as the evidence takes us. We are not conspiracy guys, although we do raise some questions about what is unknown and inconsistent. However, before you proceed further, please know that this is a fact-based book, and some of what you will read has never before been publicly stated. The truth about President Kennedy is sometimes gallant and sometimes disturbing. The truth about how and why he was murdered is simply atrocious. But all Americans should know the story. It's all here in this book. It is my special privilege to bring it to you. Bill O'Reilly, May 2012, Long Island, New York. And might I just add as a side note, Mr. Riley, Mr. Bill O'Reilly, and Mr. Martin Dugard, I pray I do all of your books justice. Thank you. Writing these books, I'm